Hello, everyone. Welcome to the host as guest. Today, we're delighted to be joined by Rose Tipka. Rose, how are you?
Yes, I'm great, Leo. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, I think you might be the first guest we've had on twice.
That means I'm twice as special. That's what that means. Yes.
I love that. I'm also honored to be here today. We're so excited to have you. You did a speech earlier for the conference, and it was so innovative and eye-opening. And I know both of us got a lot of good ideas. We would love to hear about the background of your company, how it came about.
Absolutely. So my name is Rose Tipka. I'm the owner of Your Family's Place. And the most important thing that everybody needs to know about me is that I have 6 kids. And Leo's making the 6-kid face. Yes, that's the face people make. Yes, I know how that happens. And we started Your Family's Place because our own family needed a bigger, higher quality vacation rental to stay in. Sometimes family friendly is code for not as nice. And I'm not going to play into that. So we were going to have really great homes that families could go on vacation with the grandparents, with the toddlers, and we were going to make those homes for families to stay in.
And where are your properties located?
Yeah, so we are located in Ohio, right outside of Amish country. It's about an hour and a half south from Cleveland. And we are working right now and expanding out to new areas. And we are hoping to launch Your Family's Place North in the next year. We really love Northern Michigan. We have family up there. So that's really our new venture that we're working on.
Okay, awesome. And so with your properties, are you using a property management software? Do you do everything internally in-house?
Yes. So we own and manage our homes ourselves. We have a very robust direct booking system. We are 80% direct, and we do not use Airbnb at all. We do get some reservations from Vrbo, but the vast majority of our reservations are direct off of our website. And we also really work hard in finding the right families, the right folks to stay with us, and then making them really loyal to our brand. So about 40% of our reservations year over year are the same people coming to stay with us. And so that means that, we don't have to spend that extra time and effort trying to find new people every year. We're finding the right people for us, and then we want to take care of them and get them to come back every single year.
So hard to get a guest to come back. I can't believe you got a 40% repeat guest rate.
Yes.
We're going to go into that during the episode as to how you do that. And we've got lots of questions. We want to learn everything. First of all, you say you don't use Airbnb. Have you ever used Airbnb?
When we first started the company back in 2017, we were just starting out. And so we were just getting on all the platforms, and that was the thing to do. And we were certainly at the beginning of the learning curve, because there absolutely is a learning curve to doing this in the industry and being good at it. What we started seeing developing over time is the quality of guests that we were attracting at that point in time were not the guests that we wanted to come back year after year. And as our properties got bigger and more expensive, my threshold for risk went down. And so we decided to kind of take that leap of faith and really bet on ourselves, that we were building an independent hospitality brand. And if you're relying on all of your revenue from a third party, you're not building your own independent business. And yes, it's a risk, but it's also a way of saying, I'm betting on myself. My money is in this. I'm going to bet on me, my hard work, my skills. Sometimes you got to be really scrappy. And so we decided to, take everything off Airbnb and really just focus on building that brand and really doubling down on that. And yes, it's scary, but it also means that we have independence, we have total control over what we're doing, and we can really take care of our guests without that third party kind of coming in and interfering with the relationship.
I think obviously your properties speak for themselves. What things do you feel like you guys do that set yourself apart, that people do want to come back and they're always looking for your availability?
Yes. So one of our brand values is multi-generational vacations. And a lot of times when we talk about multi-generational family vacations, we focus on kids. And that's absolutely true. And I think when it comes with kids, it's that 1 to 4-year-old range where they're touching everything.
Yeah.
They're breaking everything and they have a heart. Yeah, you understand this.
Leo always says, your kids draw on the walls.
So, but because I'm a mom, I have that secret mom sense. So I have certain rules. So when it comes to designing and decor in our homes, I have the waist down rule. Anything in our homes that is from my waist down is fair game for children to touch. That means it cannot be broken. And so that means a parent can relax because they're not worried about their kids picking up a vase and breaking it, because anything from the waist down is going to be safe for kids to touch. So that's like the one side of multi-generational family vacation, but the other side of grandma and grandpa, right? And so all of our homes are handicap accessible because grandma and grandpa might be in a wheelchair or need a roll under sink. And so we've built these features of accessibility into our homes so that we are hitting everybody on the range of ages. And so finding a place where everybody fits, everybody is comfortable, everybody feels safe. Those are really important things to get people to realize this is the brand for me. And I want this kind of experience every year.
I love the under the waist roll.
And it doesn't mean our homes are empty of decor. That's not the case at all. You have to get more creative, but it means that people can be in your homes with ease. You want people to relax on vacation.
How important is it to your strategy, or do you think it could be to the strategy of others, to have a really laser focused idea of who your guest is?
Yes. There's a saying that riches are in niches. And I think that that is very true, because if you're trying to cater to all types of guests, you're not catering to any of them. For us, we stuck with family friendly because that's our life as well. But it was also this understanding that family vacations in particular, they will never go out of style. And there's different types of vacations that are more trendy than others. Maybe people want to stay in a teepee or a tiny house and all of that kind of stuff. And those are great ways to go on vacation, but all of those things are trendy and by their very nature are temporary. Family vacation will never be temporary. People have always done it and they always will do it. And creating those memories for your family is one of the last things that people are willing to really give up when it comes to, if you have a budget that you need to think about. They don't want to give up that family vacation. And so I think when you are looking at who your ideal guest is, you really need to narrow down what that means. And I think there's lots of ways to do that. A lot of times people will say, know your ideal guest, but then they never say, how? How do you do it? And I think it's really important to talk to the people and get the information from the folks that are choosing to stay with you. They looked at all of your content and they chose you. So the question is why? And shy kids don't get sweets, right? So you ask them, you ask them why, and then you can take that information and use it to make new marketing campaigns or make tweaks and stuff like that. So we have to be bold enough to simply ask our guests for the information that they have that we want.
And does that start before they've even arrived? When does that start?
So one of the things that we use is a guest pre-arrival survey. It goes out usually around 2 weeks before vacation. So people are starting to think about that. Our company has a really long booking window. For some of our properties, it's 180 days. For some of them, it's closer to 360. So people will make that reservation and then they move it to the back burner of their brain and think about it when it comes closer. So we use a guest survey that goes out to them that asks those kinds of questions. Things like, are you celebrating anything special? If it's a birthday, if it's an anniversary, if they're coming to town for a wedding, we're going to use that information and do something with it. Maybe it's balloons, maybe it's flowers. We're not going to tell them about it because we want them to be surprised by it, right? And then I'll ask them things like, what made you choose us? There's a lot of choices out there. What was the deciding factor for you? And then that tells me what people are looking for. And if things are like, we really love that our kids could go fishing, and I'm seeing that over and over again, in the future, I need to make sure I'm putting that amenity in because the people who are staying with us are using that as a deciding factor.
Yeah. Or even pictures, just like showing kids fishing in the backyard or whatever it is.
Yes. Yeah. And so you want to put that quality content out there. It's not about volume, it's about quantity. And ideally, if you can get both, that's amazing. But you want to put out that content that attracts the right people. And then once you get folks in, you get information from them and you continually refine. It's part of that phrase that I use called endurance marketing. Marketing is not a one-off thing. It's a continual process. And there's many different channels to do it, but it's also not static. You have to continue to look at the data, look at the information, and pivot, make adjustments.
Yeah. It's so clear you have such a strong brand, which is amazing. Do you feel like your team or yourself have been wanting influencer marketing, or do you feel like, no, it speaks for itself? They find you on social media or your direct booking website?
Yeah. So we absolutely engage in influencer marketing. And I think it's been really important for us to get in front of the eyeballs of future potential guests. I do think when it comes to influencer marketing, hosts are not all set up to really maximize from that. And perhaps they just aren't as aware of how social media works or how social media marketing works, and that kind of is to their detriment. They think maybe it's just one person making a post or making a reel and it goes viral. And then my calendar's full and I never have to work again. That is literally not at all how it works. Yeah. And so it's really important for hosts to be professional, to have professional technology running, to have a professional marketing system already set up and running. And a big part of finding the right content creator is knowing who your ideal guest is. So that you can find a content creator that has an ideal guest that looks exactly like who you're looking for. I like to call that a Venn diagram with a whole lot of overlap. You have your ideal guest, you have that content creator's audience, and ideally that has the most overlap you can possibly get.
Yeah.
So that when they are doing their posts, when they're doing their marketing, they're speaking to the right people. You also have to remember that content creator marketing means that you still have to earn that person's reservation. So maybe they see a piece of content from a content creator and they give your page a follow. That's just the beginning. That's where it starts. You now have to earn that follow with quality content. And if you're not running a professional business, you don't have that. So you have quality content. Not everybody who sees a popular reel from a content creator is ready to hit book now, right now. They're not. But if you get their follow, you earn it with quality content. When the time comes, when they're ready to book that information, you are top of mind. It's a long game. It's not a one-off payoff kind of thing. You're playing the long game, and that's why I call it a form of endurance marketing.
Yes. Yeah. I imagine your calendar is pretty much full throughout the seasons, but what do you think, because your target audience is that family generational stay, do you guys have holidays that are more booked out than others, or do you just see it's like random anniversaries? Or?
Yeah. The holidays, like especially in December in Ohio, they are always booked solid. People loved it. And so Christmas has the Christmas holidays have some of our longest lead times. That's where we get those 365 lead times on those reservations, which is amazing. Summer is definitely going to book up quicker than others. Fall is going to be pretty popular for the leaves in our area and stuff like that. Winter comes around, and winter in Ohio is not the most pleasant thing. It is not. It is not the most pleasant thing. So that's where we've been looking at what types of amenities can get people to come for the weekend. If we can get our weekends, if we can get our Fridays to Sundays filled up, what kind of amenities are bringing people in? And so we are making a pivot to doing more indoor pools. Indoor pools are not very common in our market. And so having something like that is a differentiator for us. And when we have a great property already, add an indoor pool to that, we can charge rates in January that are just as high as they are in July.
I love an indoor pool. I'm all about that.
I love it.
I'm all for that.
I love it.
How are you then showing? So what's a good way to use Instagram versus a bad way if you are a property manager, right? Because I assume the bad way is you just take pictures of your accommodation and that's it. But like what are you doing, and how are you showcasing something like the fact that you've just invested in new indoor pools?
Yeah. So there are basically three different types of content on Instagram. Okay. So you have stories, you have reels, and you have posts, like carousel posts. Okay. And I treat those three different types of posts in different ways. So first of all, I use stories to try to build that personal connection between me and the followers. So I'm going to be showing my face. I'm going to be talking. I'm going to be sharing just kind of behind the scenes things. But I'm also going to be using that opportunity to specifically mention people that are staying with us. So, for example, Leo, if you were spending the weekend with us, I would put something on my story and I'd say, Leo's family is staying with us this weekend, and this is his first time staying with us. I really wanted to thank you for trusting us to take care of your family. And so hopefully you'll see that and be like, oh, she's talking about me. That's great. But then other people are also seeing that too. So I use stories as a way of really building those personal connections. I use carousel posts as educational content where I'm giving details about the house, restaurants, local activities. I view that as our educational content. And then I use reels to try to give the essence of what it means to stay with us. So that's the video content that kind of it's faster. It gets a lot of views and all of that kind of stuff. But I try to view that more as the entertainment side. So I want to build personal relationships and stories. I want to educate, and I'm going to do that in carousel posts. And then I want to entertain and give the essence in reels. And so I kind of break it into those three categories. And you have to produce a lot of content, and it has to be quality. Yeah, that's how I kind of approach different types of content and how to maximize their use.
Do you feel like your carousel posts kind of replace like a check-in guidebook when someone enters your property? You're like, oh, just refer to Instagram. We have a bunch of recommendations there. Or do you still feel like having a digital guidebook or some type of something in the property is the way to go?
You still need that. I think that's, and not all of our guests, especially grandparents.
That is so true. Yeah.
Instagram.
The grandparents.
Yeah. And some of them are.
Grandparents, right? TikTok's not.
They're all fancy.
So.
Yes. And, some of them are not even comfortable with digital guidebooks. And so we also have the old school PDF versions of things. But I will say, I will get guests that will say, I went to this pizza place that I saw your post, you recommended it. I went to the coffee shop that you recommended. And I also try to be really specific. Like I went to Dola Jeans, which is a local pizza place, and I had this specific pizza and it was amazing. Or there's a really great children's museum. Just so you know, there's an animatronic dinosaur at the entrance, and my kids, when they're under 5, are terrified of it. So I'm trying to give that education. I'm also trying to be really specific. Like I'm a mom giving advice to other moms so that when they go into that museum and their kid freaks out, they know that's going to happen.
I love it. So thoughtful. Everything you do is so thoughtful. What do you say to the host who thinks they don't have enough properties to drive direct bookings?
I guess I would tell them how many properties is enough. I think the better question is how is your brand positioned to drive direct bookings? Because we're not a big brand, not at all. And I'm okay with that because I don't take any sort of ego takeaway about how many doors I have, because to me, that doesn't really matter. So what I would tell them is, where have you invested in brand? Have you just been picking homes willy-nilly around? What is the unifying factor between the homes, between the experience? And if you don't have one, that's where you need to start creating more value. The great thing about a brand is it's really an idea, right? It's something that we literally just imagine in our mind and cast into existence. And once you do that with a brand, you start creating tremendous value. So our brand is a name. We also own the trademark for it, and all of those things create more value for what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, none of us want to work forever, right? You're right.
I'm ready to retire now.
Yes, none of us want to work forever. And so when you're creating a brand, that's some steps towards monetization. And that's what you can then in the future say, well, I own these properties, and that's separate from the brand that rents them out or the property management. I'm not going to do this forever. In 15 years, I'm going to sell the brand of your family's place, but I still own everything. And I have created value out of nothingness by saying, this is my brand. Now I have a trademark, and that has monetary value. These are our values, that has monetary value. All of the emails that I made up. Yeah. You're creating all of this value by investing in brand. You don't have to buy houses to create value. These are ideas that you're making up and making real. And that's a whole nother source of monetizing what you're doing.
Yeah.
People are insanely loyal to brands. Yeah. And so that's another avenue to create value. You don't have to have a massive portfolio to start a direct booking, campaign or direct booking program. That's the long game. And you have to be willing to bet on yourself to do that.
For sure. So speaking of building a brand monetization with your direct bookings, is there anything you do to kind of entice someone to book directly, of like coupon codes or just a lower rate than an OTA? I know you're not big on OTAs, but I would love to.
So we do a 10% price bump on Verbo. We do use Verbo. And so folks on there are going to be paying the Verbo service fee, plus I charge a 10% premium. If you want to book that way, you're welcome to do that. It's going to cost you 10% more. But that also means I can turn around and say guaranteed lowest rates on our website. And I also have we use dynamic pricing, and we have a lot of rules built into our dynamic pricing. And so one of the things that we think that there is value to is when people are booking a year out and the calendar is empty, they have their choice of dates, right? They're not trying to fit their vacation in around other things. And so that has value. And so I'm going to mark that up. Now, if I have a great family who comes and stays with me and they immediately want to rebook for next year, and I say, you know what? I would love to host you again. You guys are the perfect fit for us. You know what? I'm going to give you a 10% discount for next year. Right. But I've already marked up that price by 25% because they're booking a year out and they have the pick of the calendar. So they're getting a win because they're getting a discount, but I'm still making more on the back end because they had greater access to the calendar. So those are the kinds of things I want to show them how they are. They're getting something. Everybody wants to get something. But I'm also not going to be losing revenue on that because we are in the business of making money after all. But I build those rules into our pricing. But it also happens on the other side of things, like last minute reservations are tricky. People that book last minute are trouble.
We know that well.
Yeah, trouble. Yes. And so if it's a week out, like we don't get reservations a week out. And so somebody who's a week out, it has to be a funeral or it's trouble. And if I'm going to, scramble a team, if they're going to make it through all of our vetting at a week out and I'm going to scramble the team, they're going to pay extra for that. And so I'm going to charge a premium on the other side of things as well. So that, again, comes from experience. If I started out, I got a reservation a week out, I wouldn't have known. Now I know. Now you know. Those last minute ones are trouble for us. So they're going to pay extra if they make it through the vetting.
I feel like we could talk to you for hours. Maybe we can just talk for hours. So someone's going to open that door and then call a stop to it. We have to talk about repeat bookings because you said at the start or earlier in the day, I can't remember if it was in this interview, that 40% of your bookings are repeat bookings.
Yes.
So that is your single biggest channel of guests.
Yes.
We've got a ton of questions around that. But how do you ensure that people want to come back? And another question, if I may, is given how well you communicate with them, typically, how do they tell you they want to come back? Are they picking up the phone?
Yeah.
Let's hear it all. We could go for hours on that.
There's a lot. So when somebody is a good match for us, we're going to try to aggressively retarget them to come back. And retargeting can mean lots of different things. We do have a robust system of Meta and Google ads that retargets existing guests. Anybody touches our direct booking website, they're going to get retargeted. And yeah, I'm a small company and I do that. And guess what? Big companies do that too. And that's how they become everywhere. That's how they're flooding the zone. And small companies can do that too. Yeah. So once somebody has stayed with us and we have delivered an exceptional experience, it's really hard for someone to go back to an unexceptional experience. And people know that. And so I specifically invite our guests back and as part of that thank you note that I send them. So on the day of check-in, I will mail to their home a thank you note. And so when they get home, it's waiting for them when they get home. And again, shy kids don't get sweets. If I want them to come back, I have to ask them to come back. And so I specifically ask them in that thank you note to come back and stay with us again. And then they're going to be in our email marketing funnel. They're going to be getting that kind of information. And I have different scheduled emails that go out, like at the 1-year booking anniversary, at the 6-month booking anniversary. All of our properties are pet friendly. And so I have a series of emails that are actually for people that stayed with their dogs. I have a series of emails written from their dog's perspective because dog content does so well. Like when we do dog blog posts or dog email marketing, those always do the best. And so I saw that. I saw the performance. I looked at the data. Dog content delivers. So I made a series of emails from people's dogs to them, reminding them about that great vacation you took me on, and it's time for me to go back. There are new smells to be had.
Yeah.
Come on, human, get on it. And so there's a lot of that robust endurance marketing that happens after the guest stays with us. And you got to deliver the first time. You have to nail it. And then when people experience quality, it is really hard to go back.
Yeah, quality is everything, I think. Also, I think earlier you were talking about, I would love for you to tell the audience as well about your cookies, because I feel like I need one now.
They are amazing. They are amazing. Yes. So one of our brand values is nostalgia. And we also understand, we combine that with the understanding that when people show up at your properties, they've been traveling, they're hungry, they're thirsty, they need to go to the bathroom. So we're going to hit the hunger thing in the best way possible. Yeah. Okay. Now, my husband, he really took one for the team, and he taste tested cookie recipe after cookie recipe. I don't know how he possibly survived it. He was all bumfuzzled about this cookie or that one, but he was just like, I'll do this. I'll take it for the team. And I developed what I think is the perfect chocolate chip cookie recipe. And how do I know it was perfect? I can't just say it. I need data, right? I entered it into the county fair and won first place. So there we go.
Congrats to you.
Independent organization verifying that these are the best cookies ever. And so it is my opinion that chocolate chip cookies are the best cookie that exists. My husband would say oatmeal raisin, but he's crazy. He married me. So. And snickerdoodles are a third place. But so we do chocolate chip cookies. I make them all myself. I have a big commercial mixer, and I scoop them with an ice cream scoop, because the only way to make a chocolate chip cookie even better is to make it gigantic.
Yes.
And so on the morning of reservations, we'll pull out the vacuum sealed cookies. We'll bake them, put them in a nice little box like from a pastry shop, and we leave them there. Now, we also put a sticker on the pastry box that says, next time book direct. With our website. So you're eating a cookie, and you're like, oh, that's the website. I'm having a cookie. I'm getting a good association with that. And so just a little nudge, just reminding them. So next time means you're coming back, right? So I'm priming them with that kind of terminology, next time. And how do I want you to book? I want you to book direct. And so those cookies have really taken on a life of their own.
Yeah.
And I'll have guests that'll message me and say, what bakery did you get them from? We want to go buy more. And I say, oh, shucks. The only way you get them is if you stay with us, because I make them myself.
Yeah.
And so that has really kind of become a really great talk trigger for people who stay with us, because now they're in the know. They've had the cookies.
They're talking about it.
They know
Yeah.
how good they are, and they'll come back just for the cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Are you baking them in the property so the smell is?
Sometimes we will, depending on what the turnover schedule is.
Okay.
Sometimes we will, sometimes we'll do it in our house. It sort of depends on what the schedule is.
Yeah.
But the important thing is that they're baked fresh for them this morning, because a fresh cookie is far superior.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing better. I thought
Yes.
the cookie being baked that day fresh is fresh out the oven. All of this leads me to the assumption, the conclusion, I would say, that you take the art of hospitality incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
That's where we need to be as an industry, right?
Yeah.
To ensure not just that people book direct, or that people see us as more than an OTA provider of the service that they're building the brand around. You're building your own brand, but that people choose a short-term rental over a hotel because they can go the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
The host goes the extra mile. What else are you doing? Because I know you're doing lots that you feel would be useful for our audience to know, because you have these ideas. Lots of people have never thought about.
I have a lot of ideas. So one of the things that we started recently, it actually started as a joke between my husband and I. He's a funny guy. I had done something and he's like, well, what do you want? A certificate? I said, yes, I do want a certificate. And so just that funny conversation was like, wait a second. I do want a certificate. If I did all of this work of booking the vacation and researching and reading all the reviews and answering all of the questions and I do get a certificate. And so I went and I designed one. And so now we customize them with the lead guest's name. It's called the Vacation Hero Certificate, because not all heroes wear capes. Some of them book the vacation. And so we personalize those for the guests. And not only do they get that certificate at check-in, I also want a gold star. Because, we all deserve a gold star. And so we paperclip a gold star to their certificate. So it's a humorous moment because humor is one of our brand values because we want to have fun with this, right? And so they come in, it's something really sweet. Had a content creator stay with me and she walked in, she saw it and she cried.
Oh,
And she posted on social media about how I made her cry because it was so sweet. Because even though she was a content creator, it was still a lot of work for her to get her family there. And I recognized that. I can't necessarily make that hard work go away, but I can recognize it. But then it becomes another talk trigger for people where they'll message me and say, hey, we're here. Everything's great. Thank you so much. And then I can say, but are you wearing your gold star? And there's humor in there, but it's also getting them to talk about that and stuff like that and tell other people. So all of us there's always struggles when it comes to vacations, and we can't solve all of the problems. It'd be great if we could, but we can't. But if we can identify those areas and recognize it and celebrate it, and in a humorous way is even better. And it literally only costs me a piece of paper and one sticker. It's not about money, right? It's not about having all of those fancy everythings in your homes. It's how you're being intentional with these interactions so people know that you care. And maybe you don't have a family vacation home, and so a vacation here doesn't make sense for you. But how can you celebrate folks when they come on vacation and make it something fun? And people respond to that.
Definitely. And I think something tangible is nice because I think for families too, like people want to scrapbook memories of their kids and they can put your certificate in the scrapbook. And yeah, it's just so sweet. A nice memory.
Yes. And then we started something new this fall, and I can take you almost to the end of this. But then if people want to know the end, they're going to have to, maybe they could put in the comments.
There you go.
Do that. Put it in the comments. See if you can figure this out. One of the things that we have a problem with in the industry is a black hole of information. And that black hole exists when people are actually staying with us. We can get a lot of information from them in the lead up to the vacation. And after they check out, we can get a lot of information from them after that. But we better not be in our homes spying on them because that is creepy and in many places illegal. So one of the problems that we have is we can't really come in and like restage new experiences in a way that a resort could or a hotel could. We can't do that. So one of the challenges I wanted to conquer was how do I create an experience that's time delayed? And so I ended up finding little safes that you can program to unlock at a certain time in the future. Of course, I tested them with my kids and I put their video game controllers in there and they could not get them out. So I know that they work. I know that they work. And so we call them the magic boxes. They're sitting right on the counter so people see them when they are arriving during that magic hour. And on the top of the magic box, it says, I have one more surprise for you, but you have to wait. And this box will magically unlock on the morning of checkout. Have fun. See you on the other side. And so you know what people are talking about the whole vacation. What is in the box? So I've given them two things. I've given them what's eventually in the box, but I've also given them something to talk about and, think about and maybe place bets. And I'll see that what people will make a list.
Social media. I imagine that the pictures get taken, right? What's in it?
Yeah, what's in it? And so on the morning of checkout, when the box magically unlocks and they see what's inside, it has to deliver, and it does. And I created an experience for them that was time delayed. And it wasn't just that one moment when they walked in the door and everything was fresh. So, and if people want to know what's in the box, maybe put a comment down in there and reach out and maybe we'll tell you what's in the box.
Definitely. And find Rose on LinkedIn, Instagram, do it all, find it all because it's well worth finding out. I would have thought the good joke would be to have absolutely nothing in the box.
Yes.
The cynics would be like, there's nothing in there. It's a joke. There's nothing in
but
there.
it's a great conversation piece while people are on vacation, right? And it did take me a while to come up with what was for us the perfect item. And I tested it out. We were having a retreat at our property with some friends of ours, Sarah and Emily from the Carwells. And I tested it out on them over a weekend where they were having a retreat. And it just blew their minds. They were like, what's in there? I've got to know. And they everybody was there trying to figure out what was in the box, and they stayed up until like 2 or 3 in the morning because they're like, it's going to open this many hours. And so they all stayed up until the middle of the night to see what was in the box.
I love it.
So I'm not going to say what it is, but it delivered.
I love it. Rose, this is possibly one of the longer interviews we've done, and I still feel like we could talk for hours more.
I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Thank you.
Also, as a woman in STR, I'm like very inspirational. I look up to you, and I'm glad I got to meet you.
Well, I think it's really important for other women, and especially mothers, to be really visible for other women who are younger than us or maybe at a different phase in their parenting journey. It's really hard to be what you can't say. And so I do take that as a responsibility to other women to say, first off, and I did that here, that I'm a mom. And I am not successful despite the fact that I'm a mom. I'm successful because I'm a mom. And that is my superpower. It is not my weakness. It is not what slows me down at all. That is my superpower. And I really want to make sure that other women and other parents who are at the other end of their parenting journey can see me doing that and being successful, whatever successful means to them.
Well, you do an amazing job. We're going to have you on, and you're going to come and speak to us more, I'm sure. Thanks so much. It's been
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
If you've enjoyed today's show, please hit like, share, subscribe, and all the usual social places. Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.